With this lesson, it says on the top of the paper, explanatory prompt to thesis practice. And what I'm going to do is go through the directions of what I'm expecting you to do on this paper. So if you look at the first prompt, I have a prompt there for you, and we're not actually writing this essay. All we're doing here is identifying the topic and point within the prompt of what it is we're supposed to write about. We're going to go ahead and create a thesis statement. Obviously, it won't be filled in because we don't have the sources yet. We don't have any way to know the answer to this because we weren't given passages to go with it. So we're just you're showing me that you know how to create a thesis statement. And then on the back of this paper, we're going to go ahead and create a graphic organizer so you can show me that you would know how to take notes when you go to read the passages that go with this, or if you were going to read the passages that go with this. And it's important that you take notes correctly and you know what it is you're looking for in those passages, because it would be completely pointless of you to take notes on things in the passage that aren't relevant to what you're going to be writing about. So that's what the whole point of this is. So let's just go ahead and look at prompt 1. It says, write an explanatory essay about how the Dust Bowl developed and the effect on the people who lived there. Your essay must be based on the ideas and information found in the text. Manage your time carefully so that you can read the passages, plan your response, write your response, and revise and edit your response. Your written response should be in the form of a multi-paragraph essay. All right, so this is what your prompt is going to look like on the FSA. I mean, it's literally going to have that much in it. If you look from your essay must be based on all the way to the bottom, you'll notice that none of those parts are telling you what the essay is actually about. They're just telling you how to write the essay. So it says your essay must be based on the ideas and information found in the text. That simply means that you're not supposed to be making up the content of this essay. The content of your essay should instead be based off of the articles or the passages they provide for you. So that's all that's saying. The next part says manage your time carefully so you have time to read the passages, plan your response, write your response, revise and edit your response. That's simply just telling you how to manage your time and what you should be doing. You should definitely read the passages. If you haven't read the passages, there's no way you're going to be able to write an essay on this. If you don't plan your response, and it even says in there to plan your response before you actually write it, then your essay is not going to turn out as well as if you had planned it. Then you need time to write your response, and then when you're done writing it, you should still go back and double check that everything in there is fine. Revise it, edit it, check your grammar, check your spelling, make sure that you have your points in there and everything else you need to have. But none of this is actually telling you what your essay is going to be about. It's just giving you advice on what you should be doing during the time that you're writing this essay. The last sentence says your written response should be in the form of a multi-paragraph essay. So that's just telling you don't write it all in one big block. Make sure you've got paragraphs that are organized by points. So everything from your essay must be based on the ideas all the way down to the end is simply advice for you while writing this essay. It is not telling you what this essay is about. Okay, the first sentence, and it isn't always the first sentence, it could be at the end that they put this, so don't count on it always being the first sentence. You need to be able to read the sentences and identify, is it telling me what this essay is going to be about, or is it just giving me advice on how to write the essay? It's an important distinction that I need you to know how to do. So write an explanatory essay about how the Dust Bowl developed and the effect on the people who lived there. So the first thing I'm going to do is identify what is the topic of this essay. What is my whole essay going to be about? Not what is the point I'm making, but what is the topic of it. So the topic in this case is the Dust Bowl. So with a blue pen or a blue utensil, it could be a blue colored pencil, I don't care, borrow something from someone else, but make sure it's blue. Go ahead and circle Dust Bowl blue because that's the topic. Now, in this instance, there's actually 2 points you have to make about the Dust Bowl. So the first one is, how did the Dust Bowl develop? So go ahead with a red pen or red utensil, underline how the Dust Bowl developed, and go ahead and number it. Put a 1 with a circle around it right over it. That way you know this is only the first point of 2. So if you wrote this whole essay about how the Dust Bowl developed, you would not get a passing grade on this essay because that's not what the prompt's asking you to do. You have to write how the Dust Bowl developed and the effect on the people who lived there. So your second point you have to make is the effect on the people who live there. Go ahead and color mark that red and make sure you put the 2 with the circle above it. But there are 2 points you have to make in this essay, and if you only make one of those points, then you have failed to meet the expectations of the prompt. So you must make sure that you read the entire prompt to make sure you're not missing anything. It could be that they said you had the second point in another sentence. It could be they don't put all the directions in one sentence. So always make sure you read the prompt completely so you know that you're answering the prompt correctly. Now in the lines below, I've given them to you on your paper as well. You want to go ahead and give me an example of what kind of thesis statement you could write to go with this. So if I have to write about how the Dust Bowl developed and the effect on the people who live there, I might say blank caused the Dust Bowl and the effects on the people who live there were blank. Or I could say the Dust Bowl was caused by blank and the effects on the people who live there were blank. And obviously I can't fill in these blanks right now because I've not read any passages on the Dust Bowl and I don't know what caused the Dust Bowl or the effects on the people who live there. So I'm just leaving blanks, and if I can do this before I start reading those passages, then that's going to help me really hone in on what information in those passages I'm going to need to be pulling out in order to answer this effectively. So I want you to go ahead and write down some sort of thesis statement. Now within your thesis statement, I want you to circle Dust Bowl blue. If you don't have the topic in your thesis statement, then you haven't met the expectations of the prompt. You need to at least say the topic. You also need to have the points in there. So go ahead and mark your first point. So blank caused the Dust Bowl, or the Dust Bowl was caused by blank. However you said it, make sure you underline it red and you put a 1 with a circle around it so you know that you have one of the points you needed in there. Make sure your second point's in there. The effects on the people who live there were blank. Make sure you color mark that red and number it 2. Make sure you always want to make sure you have everything that was asked of you in your thesis statement. Once you've done that, I want you to go ahead and turn your paper over. And just pretend like you've divided the back of your paper into 4 quadrants, like so. However it is on the front with prompt 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like prompt 1 takes up the top quarter of the page, prompt 2 takes up the second quarter, and on the bottom half you have prompt 3 and 4. That's how I want you to imagine that the back of your paper is divided. Front. On the back, what I want you to do is draw a rectangle. So this rectangle is going to be an example of the type of graphic organizer you would use on the FSA when you go to read the passages that go with this prompt. So for the sake of argument, because we don't know yet how many passages there would be, I mean it could be there's 2, it could be there's 3, it could be there's 4. For all of these, we're just, for the sake of argument, going to say there's 3 sources they give you, 3 articles or 3 passages. So what I want you to do is go ahead and create 3 columns within that rectangle. And these are going to represent the 3 sources that you would be reading. So label each column source 1, source 2, and source 3. Now the reason I put the sources on the top is because I want to make sure when I go to write my essay that I am not tempted to organize my essay by source. So if I just sum up source 1 in one paragraph, source 2 in another paragraph, and source 3 in another paragraph, I am not going to pass this FSA because we are not organizing our essay by source. We're organizing it by the points we're supposed to be making. In this case, what are the causes of the Dust Bowl and the effects on the people who live there? That's what it should be organized by. So if source 1 and source 2 say the same thing caused it and source 3 has another cause, then it might be that I've got my first paragraph is about the cause that's similar between source 1 and 2. My second paragraph is about the cause that's similar between source 3 and maybe source 1, who knows. So causes, I'm going to organize my paragraph by the causes and then the effects. So I might have 2 paragraphs on causes if there's 2 causes, and 1 paragraph on the effects. Or I could have 1 paragraph on the causes and 2 paragraphs on the effects. Or I could have 2 on causes and 2 on effects. But regardless, when I go to organize my essay, I need to organize my essay by the causes and by the effects, not by the sources. And that's why I'm always going to put the points on the left. So in this instance, it's causes, and I know in the prompt it said how the Dust Bowl developed. Okay, if I put in that first row, instead of labeling it causes, just how it developed, that would be totally fine, as long as I'm looking for how it developed, which is essentially saying what caused it. That's why I put causes. But if you have something different there, that's fine, as long as I can see the 2 points that you're supposed to be looking for as you read those passages. And this is all I need you to do on the back for prompt 1. You obviously can't fill this in because we don't have any passages to read for this prompt. We're just practicing the setup of what we would do when we receive a prompt. That's all we're doing. So now move on to prompt 2. It says you will read 3 articles about inventors. Write an informational essay explaining the qualities that make people effective inventors. Your essay must be based on blah, blah, blah. Okay, the rest of that we know is just advice on how to write our essay, so we don't need to look at that. When we're looking for what is the topic and what point are we making in this essay, it's going to be, in this case, in that first area, because it told us there what we're doing. So it says you will read 3 articles about inventors. Okay, that's just what we're going to read about. That's not what we're writing about. So ignore that sentence. Then it says write an informational essay explaining the qualities that make people effective inventors. Okay, so the topic of this, what our whole essay is going to be about, not the point we're making, but just the topic, is going to be effective inventors. So go ahead and circle that blue. And now in this case, we only have 1 point we're going to make, or 1 point we're looking for, but it could be that there's multiple of these. So I'll explain in a second. We're looking for the qualities that make people effective inventors. So if we're looking for the qualities that make people effective inventors, that's our point. So qualities that make people is what I'm going to underline red. I'm going to make sure that I have the 1 up top in a circle, and I hit the next part too soon, but as you can see on the bottom, we're also going to make our answer, for our thesis statement for this. So we're looking for the qualities that make people effective inventors. Now I can say blank, blank, and blank are qualities that make people effective inventors. Or I could say qualities that make people effective inventors include blank, blank, and blank. And I don't know that there's going to be 3. It could be there's only 2. It could be that there's 4. I'm just making this up and giving myself a structure for my answer, for my thesis statement. It doesn't matter if later on I find out there's 4. I can always add that in. But I need to know that you can make a thesis statement and that you're prepared to fill in the blanks, where the blanks go. So you don't have to write this exact one. You could write qualities that make people effective inventors are blank, blank, and blank. Okay, I don't mind however you do this. Just make sure that you have the room for the qualities to be inserted into that sentence and that you've put the topic in there. So make sure you circle that topic blue, effective inventors, within your thesis statement, within your answer. Make sure you underline red where the points are going to go and that they're the qualities that make people effective inventors. And then you've got your 1 in a circle, so we're just reminding ourselves, yes, there's only 1 point we're making. But like I said, it could turn out there's more than 1 quality. So it could be that, yes, this is the only kind of point you're making, but there could be 3 qualities or 4 or 2. So on the back of our paper, we're going to create a graphic organizer just like we did for the previous prompt. So on the back of my remember, for the sake of argument, we're going to say source 1, source 2, source 3. We're going to pretend that there's 3 sources. So I'm going to set up my rectangle just like that, to have 3 sources. Now, there's only 1 point identified in that prompt, and that was the qualities. Okay, so I don't need to divide this horizontally. I'm just looking for the qualities. And it could be I find 5 qualities among all the sources, but I'm looking for the qualities. So the point I'm making is always going to be on the left side of that graphic organizer. Once you have this done, this is it. This is all you have to do for prompt 2. You're ready to move on to prompt 3. Now, I'm not going to do prompt 3 or 4 with you. That's where I want you to show me that you can figure this out, that you know what to do. You can identify the topic within a prompt. You can identify the point or points within a prompt. You can create a thesis statement, and you can create a graphic organizer. So once you're done doing this, you can turn your work into the bin, and I'll grade it as soon as I return. If you don't finish in class, finish it for homework and make sure you get that into me. Thank you.